we want all babies to have the opportunity to crawl on their hands and knees. Both knees on the ground, both hands on the ground. Babies who skip crawling have some unintended consequences that their same age crawling peers do not have. And I am on a mission to help proactive parents understand that each baby deserves the opportunity to crawl on their hands and knees, and that there are specific proactive things we can do to help them build the strength and the mobility that they need in order to be able to crawl on hands and knees like their same age crawling peers. We are looking for babies to crawl specifically on their hands and knees between 9 months and 11 months. If your baby is 11 months and they are not yet crawling on their hands and knees, then we want to make sure that you know that it is within your right to request a pediatric physical therapy or a pediatric physiotherapy appointment so that you can figure out what is blocking your child from being able to crawl. Now, a lot of families will reach out to me probably after watching this video or another video talking about crawling, saying things like, it's totally okay if a baby skips crawling. And while that can be common, even in the medical industry, what parents are not told is the specific ramifications that can happen if their child is not crawling. Or if you found this video and your child is a toddler, making sure that you are giving them crawling opportunities even after they're already walking, like using a tunnel, creating obstacle courses, things like that, that they can then continue to create those movement patterns. There are so many benefits, both from a physical standpoint for development, helping babies master things they need for future milestones like walking, specifically the hip development. If a baby skips crawling, they might not have the opportunity to develop the hip muscles that they need to go from a one joint activity, crawling, you just have to control your hips because your knees are on the ground, to a 3-joint activity, which is walking, where you now have to control both your hips, your knees, and your ankle joints. So if you skip crawling, you are not developing your hip muscles in a way that can sustain a 1-joint situation. And now all of a sudden you're expected to be able to control your body in a 3-joint situation. Some babies are able to make that jump, but some struggle and then are delayed in walking. Now, we also want to make sure that babies are given the opportunity for other things, like being able to build the strength in their inner hand muscles. If you don't have the opportunity to put your hands on the ground and crawl over and over and over again, you are not given the opportunity to develop the hand, wrist, elbow, shoulder, and upper trunk strength that your same age crawling peers are able to develop. That can result in difficulties in the future, potentially in academics, because in order to have precision in your fingers, you have to have stability in this whole upper area. A lot of occupational therapists who specialize in handwriting and the formation of letters find out after the fact that the children they're working with that are struggling with handwriting skipped crawling. And that is because crawling is one of the best ways to build strength in the inner hand muscles. Now, there are a million other reasons why therapists are very firm that every child deserves the opportunity to crawl on their hands and knees, and if they are struggling, that we figure out why that is. I would also recommend grabbing the free crawling checklist linked above. That's gonna go through a lot of different body parts and a lot of different exercises and positions so that you can figure out maybe which area is blocking your child more. Is it hip strength? Is it core strength? Is it arm strength? Is it mobility? Getting from sitting into all fours requires rotation. And if your child struggled with rolling, that also requires rotation. A lot of babies who do asymmetrical patterns instead of crawling on their hands and knees, especially booty scooting, often have underlying trunk tightness. It's hard for them to rotate and flex their trunk, so they avoid those directions and movements that require that rotation, like going from sitting into all fours. And then they create a pattern that's less advantageous, like booty scooting. Now, are we really proud of these kids for being creative and still learning how to get from point A to point B to move their body to get to something that they want? Absolutely. However, booty scooting does not allow for strengthening through the hands. It is an indicator that there's underlying muscle tightness and also typically muscle weakness. These babies typically also struggled with rolling and tummy time, so there is a pattern here. We are not going to be able to go over every single benefit of crawling, but quickly, just to name a few, we've already covered hand strengthening, so inner hand strengthening. It helps postural control, so keeping your body upright. It helps with crossing midline, so academically, we need to be able to read from the left side to the right side of the paper. We also need to be able to write from the left side to the right side of the piece of paper. When you're crawling, you have to use the right hand and the left leg, which requires motion and pathways to go from the right side of your brain to control your left leg and the left side of your brain to control your right arm, passing directly through the middle of your brain and the corpus callosum. Creating and priming those pathways can help with other functional activities that require crossing the line. If you're sitting here and you're writing, you can notice that my hand, if the piece of paper is right here, my hand has to cross into the left side of my body in order to write across a piece of paper. If you think of there being a line straight through my body, then my hand starts on the left piece of the paper, crosses that imaginary line in the middle of my body, goes to the right side. With our eyeballs have to move to the left side of the page when we're reading, all the way to the right side. Those motions require pathways through the corpus callosum or in the middle of your brain. And crawling is one of the best functional ways in which to prime those pathways, so then when we add more cognitive tasks like reading and writing, those pathways are already developed, they're already there. The other thing it does is it helps isolate the head from the body, the trunk of your body. So when you're in all fours, if you're looking around, you have to move your head, but your body does not move. When you're writing and copying from the board, you have to look up, look down. Additionally, when you are riding a bike, you have to keep your arms straight and isolate your head motion. If you have not crawled on all fours, or it's not a practice that you're continuing to implement even when kids are older, like crawling through tunnels, crawling on playgrounds, things like that, you may have your arm motion follow with your head, because those disassociations or those movements are coupled and they're not broken apart yet because you haven't had as much experience moving your body in that way. If you talk to chiropractors, they really talk about all fours helping to develop the curves in the spine and seeing that as being really important in overall optimal spinal health development. There are just a million reasons, and I could go on and on and on about why crawling is important for these babies and why I so strongly believe that every child deserves the opportunity to crawl in order to have a chance to develop these skills. And that's a wrap, friends. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to spend it learning with me on how to help your little move well. We obviously want all babies to have the opportunity to crawl because it is such an important physical movement pattern. It's such an important way for them to work with their brain, to work with their body, to connect the dots so that they can build underlying skills that they need for pre-academic work. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. If you're a parent that really is looking for a little bit more in-depth information, I want to make sure that you know to check the pinned comment so that you can schedule an online parent consultation with me. It's where we have 60 minutes, we chat on video, and we can make sure that you have all of your questions answered. You know exactly what the best next steps are for you in your specific situation, as well as some proactive play positions that you can do with your child to help them master this season.